DC's response? Their response is to actually shut some of our shelters here in the DC.
Shame! Shame!
Shame! Shame! Shame! Shame! Shame!
Shame! Shame!
In the coldest part of the year, we decided the way to balance our budget is to shut our shelters. We have Mr. Peter Tucker here who's to talk to us. He runs a website called Fight Back, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about our shelter situation.
Thefightback.org is the website. The reason I became a journalist is because of the activism around Franklin Shelter, which I'll tell you about. It was shut a little more than 2 years ago. Mayor Adrian Fenty closed Franklin Shelter just a month before the beginning of hypothermia season a little more than 2 years ago. Fenty closed this desperately needed downtown shelter at a time when not only was the temperature getting cold, but the economy as well. It was chilly all around. And for the 300 men who depended on the imperfect warmth of Franklin Shelter to help them survive, it was about to get worse. Days after Franklin's closure, Charles Davis, a senior citizen, ended up in the hospital. Lou Caneo, also a Franklin resident and a senior citizen, he found housing in his car. Sebastian also found shelter at a local laundromat. Dewan, Eric, Tommy, Orlando, and others ended up at 801 East Shelter on the grounds of the former St. Elizabeth's Hospital, east of the Anacostia River, out of sight and out of mind. Thomas Ashley, he never stayed at Franklin. There were no beds available the night he tried. Fortunately, he found a bed at the New York Avenue shelter. But the night Franklin closed, the New York Avenue shelter was filled up. Because of Franklin's closure, the other shelters filled up, and Thomas, a U.S. veteran, was forced to sleep in the streets. And then there's Phil. In the weeks following Franklin's closure, he continued performing the task he'd been given, to clean the front steps of the shelter. What Phil didn't know, and what he wasn't able to comprehend, was that no matter how well he cleaned, the doors to his home would not be reopened. And for weeks, if not months, he kept on cleaning. Neither Mayor Fenty nor the Washington Post cared to learn the stories of Phil or Thomas or Charles or the others. Who needs facts when you've got ideology on your side? Fenty pronounced that Franklin's closure was a good thing, you see, because there was a new program that was going to make huge strides towards ending homelessness. Housing First is its name, and it provides housing to the most vulnerable without forcing them to meet certain criteria first, such as obtaining a job, becoming sober, other hurdles which can be all but impossible for individuals in the most difficult of situations. While there's much to applaud about Housing First, it should be lost on no one that Fenty rolled it out in conjunction with closing Franklin. Housing First was used here in D.C. as a justification for taking a life-saving shelter away from the poorest district residents. Fenty claimed the issue was simple: quality housing or rundown shelters? Which is better? Which do you prefer? But this is a false and deadly choice. In the District of Columbia, there are tens of thousands of residents who've been on the waiting list for affordable housing for years. Even if the district brought online many affordable housing units, which it should, it would in no way obviate the need for shelters, particularly downtown shelter, which allows for easier access to food, jobs, and services. I'm honored to spend this World AIDS Day here with you activists who have done so much to raise awareness about the HIV epidemic in the District of Columbia and elsewhere. I only wish the city's leading newspaper and the rest of the press corps, including myself, would do a better job of giving this issue the serious attention it deserves.